Welcome to episode 33 of Randall Vision. I'm your host, Randall. Today's episode will most likely be called A Peek Behind the Curtain. A quick content warning here. If you haven't seen episode 11, go watch episode 11. But also, from another point, if you're on a spiritual path, or if you're looking at the first 32 episodes, this is like going to the back of the book and looking for the answers. This is like essentially my answer key to what it is that I've been searching for and working on all this time. So I got 20 brainstorm topics and a couple other loose things here to go through. Some loose thoughts on the last episode. That shook me. I wasn't quite right after that. This isn't just exposition. I take this material and I view it and I integrate it into my life. And that last one was hard. Just putting that out there. Is Randall okay? The answer is both yes and no. In case you haven't got the vibe of what has been transpiring. So, and a quick little note. This is kind of a turning point. I think I did the thing. So Randall Vision up to this point, 1 through 32, I did the thing. That's what I was trying to do. And for those, it was talking to myself. And now I think I've hit the point where instead of primarily talking to myself, I can share my perceived audience with other people. Instead of me just talking to the camera as if I'm talking to myself, I want to start being able to talk to the camera with the acknowledgement of other people being interested in what I'm saying or curious or trying to learn or whatever. Like I said, I'm not a teacher. Don't listen to anything that I have said. I am most likely a charlatan. Don't give me any money. But anyhow, sorry about that. Let's just start cracking into the list here. I'm just going to go down. I tried to group some of them. That kind of works. So, number one, what is Randall Vision? Number one, a thelemic proselytization effort. At the very end of 32, the purpose of 32 is showing my path to thelema. It's like an endorsement. Like I don't know if you noticed on this channel, I don't really I've done some name dropping, but I don't really promote stuff in particular. And that rang as a wholehearted endorsement. And it was difficult coming to that because I don't know a ton about thelema. I've read relatively little and just trying to learn from some others. And to endorse something without knowing the depths of it is risky, but I've seen enough signs that the amount of questioning and research I would need to do to get to the bottom to do a I know endorsement is too much. And I'm willing to take the I have faith that this thing works endorsement. So that's number one. Number two, obviously this was Randall Vision as self-analysis that, like I said, it was a tool, a tool for meta self-analysis that when you say and think first person, it only does so much, but whenever you view yourself third person, like, try it. And also don't listen to me. I'm not telling you what to do. Number three, this is autobiographical. I try to capture things about me in the most honest sense that I can. And as far as like factual stuff, the only one that jumps to my mind right now is when I talk about doing salvia, I said I did it on my 30th birthday, and I don't think that's correct. I'm pretty sure I was 27 when that happened. So that would have been 12 years ago. 11 and a half, 12 and a half. I don't know. So, but, you know, being autobiographical kind of humanizes me a little bit. Number four, personal bedrock of existence, theory of everything. Now, there's probably steps missing. Like, this is not a full exposition of the ground that I stand upon and my full theory of everything. I presented some of the bricks. The mortar is in my head. So I have vastly more context to fill in the gaps than anyone else watching the earlier episodes of the series. But what I was led to believe, or what I do believe, is that the type of person that is most capable of understanding what I'm saying is a Thelemite. That there's enough parallels that, like, one of the things I've been struggling with is my inability to communicate with some of the people that are closest to me, that I'm having a hard time explaining exactly what it is that I'm going through. And it's so frustrating. And I'm not saying, but people are trying around me, or I keep trying too, and that helps me speak better and all that. But like, I don't know, let's move on here. Explaining my worldview. That is a more simpler, oh, and I forgot to preface all this. A lot of these are just different ways of saying the same thing, or a lot of them overlap, or they are degrees apart. So me trying to say this all 20 different ways will give you a closer approximation to just my thoughts on the project. So explaining my worldview, I don't necessarily think I do that explicitly, but I think you can tease it out through the work, and that is a step closer to me being able to communicate what I'm saying. That like when statements are made without context, they're more open to interpretation. But for example, if you sit through the whole thing and and then you're like, oh, okay, I get where this guy's coming from, and then you would start it over and go, okay, I'm starting with this from knowing where this guy's coming from. That you could tease out some of my or enough of my worldview to hopefully understand me better because you would understand where I'm coming from. Another very similar one, this one in particular, I had tying back into the three that preceded it, contextualization of the self. I'm gonna pass on that. I don't like the wording. And also, the next bullet point I'm gonna save for later down the list. Is this what transhumanism looks like? And I've got more. I would like to postpone that for a moment here because it relates into a couple other points I make. Now here's the big one. The big reveal, number 8. This is the peek behind the curtain. So, from the start of this was to like figure out who I am. I thought I was gonna make it through this episode without crying, and I think it was shortly after watching the last 10 minutes of 32 with my significant other. It might have been like later that day or something, but was out on the deck there, pacing, maybe smoking, and it kind of hit me that there was nothing there. I'm not saying that I don't exist. I might be saying I don't exist. Randall exists, obviously. But I'm not sure if I do. And when I looked back at all of this, I was trying so desperately to be as authentic as possible, to prove that I'm real. And I'm not convinced. I didn't make any of those episodes. The person that made the first episode is not the person that made the second episode. And the person that made the 5th episode isn't the person that made the 18th episode. It's different people. And viewing the work as a whole, there's not a single thing that is original from end to end. So what what conclusion can be drawn from that? That I am the world. That I embody the pieces of, or I perform or project the pieces of the world that I like or choose to believe in or feel comfortable with, and I hide or reject the things in the world that I find displeasurable, dishonorable, any kind of negative, you gotta accentuate the positive, eliminate the negative. Anyhow, one way I've been thinking about it is that I'm kind of like silly putty, that you take a comic strip and you press the silly putty against the comic strip, and then it's that image, and then you could pull and tease and distort the image, and because it's on the Play-Doh, stretch it out. But it's all reflections. It's like Indra's net, that it's just reflections of reflections of reflections. There was no one there. And furthermore, the statement is nonsensical. I did find out whomst I am. That statement works off of faulty epistemology. There are no things. There is only the appearance of things. Everything is a becoming. We are verbs, not nouns. Things only exist as ideas. The world we exist in is dynamic. It's not static, so a thing cannot exist. Maybe let's move on. If I need to circle back to that, I will. Number 9, this has been a public confessional. I think I also referred to that as life review. I'm not afraid of society or something. I don't know. I rely on it heavily for this sustaining my existence. Like, I reap all kinds of decadent benefits based upon society. So, like, I'm not necessarily antagonistic with it. I want to be symbiotic with it. So I don't think there's any harm in acknowledging that you've effed up on occasion. And actually, I've probably kept that section to a minimum. That's probably a direction I want to go with the channel, is like, hey, look at all these times I messed up. Here's what I learned from it. But we'll get there. 10, authentic self-expression. So yeah, that was just the topic I moved on from. That it doesn't come across as authentic as I hoped it would, or like I made it as authentic as I possibly could, and it's not performative. Like, the person that spoke in each of those was being authentic, but those episodes are not an expression of my current authentic self. Like, if I would go back and do any of this, it would not look the same. So that's kind of where the dissonance between, or this calls into question, what is authenticity? And two, I think in one of the first two episodes, I preface to acknowledge that. So I guess I kind of knew it from the door. Another one, 11, developing a screen persona. This kind of ties into that transhumanism. And in parentheses here, are you convinced I am real? Like, do you think I was bullshitting my way through all of those episodes? Like, did I make it all up? Or is that the life I lived? Or are those my stories? Or, if you had to wager a significant amount of money on whether or not Randall's a real person, which way would you bet? Also, just trying to get comfortable and being able to talk. That I think I've heard the term media training. I'm not that far yet, but like, we're trying. We're learning. 12, proving that my opinion has value. I don't even know why I wrote that down, because that's something that I have not yet resolved for myself, that kind of at the moment, on the one hand, I don't think opinions matter at all. And on the other hand, that's obviously not true. And that's kind of like a dualistic stalemate. So I haven't resolved that. This is where we start getting into it. Bootstrapping. So I think I bootstrapped my existence. And the series up until this point can be viewed as a how-to. That you're not, someone else shouldn't say what I said or do what I did. Like, do your version of what I did and justify or explain how it is that you exist. And does that thing live in your head, or have you written it down for yourself? Do you have something to hold on to? And through the process of this, the turning point, so a lot of it is just setting up context in which for my words to have meaning. But in doing so, that gets me to the point where I think I was pushing back on Jaska Bach talking about consciousness and how he said it's an illusion. And when I take the bold stance to say, fuck that guy, maybe it is an illusion, but I perceive it and that's real enough for me. Who am I to make that bold claim? Well, I've established who I am to make that bold claim. You can't push back on determinism versus free will without being able to assert a self beyond, well, I'm me and I exist. Well, okay, like dig a little deeper into that. What is, how is that? Why is that? And I may have left some of those bricks out. Like I may not have provided enough to fully convince another person, but like I said, the mortar is in my head. So and still I got some bricks on the shelf. But and in particular, like whenever I mentioned psychic feedback from watching episode 6 on solipsism, that may have been the bootstrapping moment when it was like, oh, okay, wow, where am I? Like, oh, the world's real? Holy shit. I don't know if that was it. I don't know if there was an exact moment, but there's enough stories going on up there that there was a bootstrapping that took place. The next one, this is where we tie a few things together. Number 14, what is Randall Vision? A transhumanist spell/ritual. Now, for starters, down to point 17, I'm kind of a failed ceremonial magician, or I don't know how else to word that, but to explain further, one may assume that, oh, he came to Thelema so that he could engage in a magical occult practice to lead him to his true will, or to accomplish the great work, and through some sort of set of magical rituals or magical practice. No, years ago, I dabbled a little bit. A buddy of mine lent or gave me a copy of Modern Magic. I think it's a very well-known occult text, and I only made it about 30 pages into the book because I was like following the instructions, and at a certain point it was like, yeah, you can't like half-ass this. You actually have to like dedicate yourself and do this. And I was like, all right, well, I'm not gonna do that. So I guess I'm not gonna be a magician. Okay. And I learned a good bit. It taught me some basics of the tarot. It taught me what a LBRP was and what the purpose of it is, and some foundational stuff, but I never took it further than that. But now, what I mean by this being a transhumanist spell/ritual, how deep do we, how schizo should we go on this? I boldly put forth my morality at the beginning of Randall Vision. Very simple. I think it's just, or as far as I'm concerned, honesty and liberty. There you go. That's the whole thing. And by saying that that's morally correct, I feel like it sent ripples through the fabric of reality or whatever. Like in another episode, I talk about plot armor. I'm pretty sure I have lots of plot armor. In spite of me having many shortcomings throughout my life, I meant well. I was trying to do good. And I was young enough to not understand that, like, trying could be harmful. Or I don't think I ever really tried in like an activist sense of the word, but I many times would try to be a good person. The largest obstacle to that would have been alcohol. That I'm well aware of several occasions where alcohol led me to not being a nice or cooperative person, and that's on me. But in Randall Vision, I speaking truth to power, something like that, and authentically for the purpose of doing so, not with a pursuit of notoriety or fame or fortune or to make myself look smart or good or whatever. Like, the intentions were pure. And the results have been bonkers. The things that have occurred in my life since beginning this, like, I've seen lots of weird stuff, lots and lots of weird stuff, and the last 8 or 9 months has been extra weird. I think I've mentioned all this. And I've even kind of like moved, like, being alone has been weird for me this whole 9 months or whatever, that when I'm around other people, it's easy to be the person that they think I am. But when I'm by myself, I don't know what's going on, man. Like I just said, I found out who I am, and it's like, oh, dude, you don't exist. Or you are a reflection of the world and nothing more. There was like, and that even goes back to episode 1 or 2 where I'm like, hey, the only things I know is what I've experienced in my life. And that's like, yeah, I don't have deep mystical insight from the other side or what. Like, I have experienced things from the other side, but like, I don't, if I perceived it, then it's part of this. There isn't a somewhere else or whatever. Like, I don't know. Now I'm just getting weird. And I thought I was going to be able to explain this transhumanist spell thing in better words. Like, suppose there is a simulation going on. I apologize for going into simulation theory, but, or no. Say we're real. Like, we're very real in the sense that we are, because we feel like pain and stuff. Like, we all experience reality, or at least I assume so, but it's fairly obvious to me. And fuck. Okay, so by feeding, I fed myself into the machine. I lay my heart and brain bare, or my thoughts or my minds or my feelings, my everything. I just lay it all out there. I gave the machine myself. And that may translate somewhere, or here, or somewhere in between, or pull here and there closer together, or there's so many, it's a intangible thing that I'm trying to express. So that's why I'm having a difficulty trying to articulate what it is I mean by that. Next up, there was thought or planning that went into the overall thing. Like, I make it clear that, like, you know, I have some ideas and I'm willing to change and adapt and this and that, and I do. But one of the things that occurred to me early on, this is an artistic influence, is Jackson Pollock. That I'm not sure if I definitely took a lot of art classes in high school. I took at least one in college. And I'm not sure if I've really read any books on art per se. But what I learned somewhere about Jackson Pollock is that part of the point of his work, or the point of his work, is that although it be abstract, it is a record of the actions taken by the artist. And that is what I tried to do with Randall Vision. That I'm a paintbrush. The words are some paint. And we just get a little weird with it. You know, like the building, the course corrections that take place. I don't think they're course corrections. I think that's called growth. The growth that takes place. It's recorded. And it shows the steps. There was a lot of Pollock influence in what I'm doing here. And to, like, that it doesn't have to look a certain way. I'm not striving for an objective solution, answer, whatever. This entire work is subjective, and I don't even know if objective exists. We use approximate objectivity for function or utility purposes in our lives, but I think, anyhow, it's a subjective work based upon Jackson Pollock's influence. Number 16, none of this is an endorsement to behave as I have. This is an endorsement for anyone to follow their own path. That's Thelema. I'm not trying to tell anyone what to do about anything at all. And I'm not telling you to look up to me either. What I'm saying is, you can be you. And that's kind of what I've been... raising a flag for individualism, because I firmly believe that's important. And just got done going through some material on Ayn Rand and Crowley, a article, Bishop. I'm not sure what you go by, Bishop, but Rand and Crowley being heavily in the individualistic camp and shying away from collectivism. They're both important. And they were rallying for the individual because they didn't want the individual to be crushed by collectivism. And I think lots of progress has been made in that direction just by viewing society. And That's good. And we also need a collective organization that serves, or it would be, I think it would be useful to have a collective organization of society that serves the individual. We're not there. I don't have political or economic solutions. You should probably listen to people that do know about that stuff if you want useful information in that direction. I don't have it. Or I do. It's just my thoughts so radical that I'm not super comfortable saying it in public. And that's not my job. Like, I don't know. But I think the reconciliation, like, I'll have an episode coming up. I think it's on my list about society and toast. But both the individual and society are very important. Like, that's a Wattsism. They go with. It's a goes with. They're creating artificial distinctions doesn't separate the two. So it's useful on the one hand to do the assertion of individuality, but the individual is relatively inseparable from society. Anyhow, we already did 17. I think we slipped into the schizo area a little here. This may be an entrance exam to proceed past the great filter. I don't want to elaborate on that too much, but I do believe in certain concepts, such as the Akashic record and the great filter. The great filter would be the thing that separates us and other intelligent species that we would have a possibility of communicating with. I think our species is too crass to entertain other beings wholesale. If we're racist, homophobic, sexist, if we can't treat our own species with kindness, how would we be able to extend that courtesy to another species? Like, it just, there's a lot of ground to be covered in order to take our species to a better place. But I have lots of faith that we've been heading in the right direction. I've seen evidence, or at least in my opinion, I've seen convincing things that say that we're progressing towards something better. And I want to be a part of that. I want to make the world a better place, but the challenge comes in where any efforts you make run the risk of doing more harm than good. So non-action and effortless action are, to me, the safest paths to take in that direction. So that's why I don't heavily self-promote or whatever. I want people to hear my ideas, but I don't want to thrust them upon people. And I think it's for people that are ready for it. I don't think all of my species would gain benefit from the things I say. And that's not to be condescending. That's just an acknowledgement of the fact that we all walk different paths. We all go to the same place. Humans, we have so much more in common with one another than we have differences. And that we're unable to see past that is just so frustrating. And so I don't have a side or a team or whatever. Like, I could say that I'm like team human or pro human or whatever, but like I don't think that's quite right either. I could say that I'm like in favor of living organisms, or so none of that's. Once again, we're stepping into territory that's kind of intangible. So let's just kind of. But I think it's possible to prove to something else that you're worthy of communicating with it, or whatever, something like that. Number 19, Randall Vision. What is Randall Vision? Performance art. One of the dudes, I don't really like have a guru or a teacher or whatever, but there's lots of very wise people that I've learned from. And one of my favorites is Alan Watts. And I hope I'm not doing a bad Alan Watts impression. Like, there are so many of his lectures up on YouTube for free. Go listen to them, and if you haven't already, and then you could learn, like, that was some of my last steps to get to where I'm at now. Like, him and Ram Dass, I haven't listened to much Krishnamurti or Thich Nhat Hanh, or all the wise men, the sages, they said this stuff, and you know, there's been some that are not too long gone from our world, and I don't want to just do what they've done. They did what they did. Like, I don't want to write a book because the books have been written. Well, I don't need to do an Alan Watts impersonation because he did that. And another story tying back to my punk roots. G.G. Allen. I should do a whole episode on G.G., I'll sum it up in a few sentences here. The biggest contribution that G.G. Allen made to the world is that no one else ever has to do that ever again. The things he did are not like when he violated liberty, that's not excusable. But the service that he paid to our species is that anyone that ever does what he did again, you could just point at them and laugh and mock them and go, you're just trying to be Gigi. Gigi fucking did it. So we don't have to go down that road anymore. And that's one of the things that, like, coming to this originality or creativity or whatever, and how I don't have any of it. The world is so full, like, we're to the point where we're suffering like information pollution, or, you know, the genres are established. Like, how often do new genres arise? Not very often. But we're starting to get there. Like, technology is creating more opportunity and space to explore with creating art. But like I said, this whole thing's subjective. It's not educational. So in that regards, I think this is my version of artistic expression. Number 20. What is Randall Vision? I think this may be, and particularly like further down the road, it's a Rosetta Stone. Imagine an interplanetary or interdimensional traveler that came to our planet, and let's say one of its abilities was to view and comprehend all of our electronic data. And they amongst the quadrillions of bits of information that they come across when scanning our collective databases, they perk up and they go, oh, it's one dude, just one corporal being condensed enough things to create an epistemology or an ontology or a tautology. No, it may be a tautology of sort. Like I said, there was a bootstrapping involved, but that I'm trying to create a doorway that could reverse engineer our entire world. I think that ties back into the transhumanist spell or ritual. And it is wholly from my perspective. And I have a suspicion that if not only myself, but like, you know, and two, that's the thing. There's already people. I'm not the first person, you know, this vlog, introspection, whatever this thing that I'm doing has been done. And I'm not saying that I've necessarily done it better than anyone else. What I think makes me different, or the work that I'm doing, or this episode in particular different, is that acknowledging the significance of what this is. Like a video diary may seem maybe trivial or superfluous or something, but to insist that it can create a portal to other dimensions, I don't know, maybe I lost it, guys. But also we could try and see, and that would be cool if it worked. So that's it for the bullet points on what is Randall Vision. A couple of little things that I wanted to touch on. At the end of the last episode, I claim myself to be a Pradyatika Buddha. And in Thelema, I believe they refer to that as a black brother. Someone can correct me if I'm wrong. And as I stated, I believe that I either recently stopped being one or would like to stop being one, and turn course or whatever. And I'm not like attached. I don't want like people to call me that or what, like, I'm not looking at it for a title. Like, that would be ridiculous to look for that as a title. Like, oh, look, I'm like one of the most selfish or terrible things that has ever existed. Or like, no, that's not. I'm not trying to show off. I'm apologizing or what. Like, yeah, I'm trying to join the team, guys. Instead of being a rugged individualist, I want to come back to the herd and like participate and make the world a better place with everybody. So that's what I was getting at there. You don't need to read any more into that beyond that. And I don't recall the episode number, but there in one of the earlier episodes, I coin a term or define a term, the tribunal, the being or beings that would confront me via pure thought, most commonly during psychedelic experiences, in particular LSD, that would present me with a challenge or a question or a situation, and I would need to provide like honest and quick responses from the depths of my soul. There's no bullshitting the tribunal or whatever. Like they just are aware of what your answer is. And I was scrolling Twitter, I seen somebody use the word archon in an interesting way, or Gnostic archon. I'm like, wait a minute, I don't know, like, what is this? So I went and looked it up, and the tribunal maps directly onto Gnostic archons. So if there's anybody out there that wants to like explain this to me and let me know that hopefully I'm not crazy, but to give a specific example, the most recent time I encountered the tribunal was not under the influence of psychedelics. I was walking to the kitchen, and right over there, and as I neared the couch, the thought entered my mind, and it instructed me, or well, first it showed me everything that I have ever done wrong, and it showed me everything that humans or civilization has done wrong that I'm aware of throughout history. And then it said, how do you justify this? How do you balance this scale? And it didn't take me long to come up with the response, as with all the other, like you're not permitted to ruminate. And the solution I came up with was, we're still here. Well, no, hold on. That's the second part. The first part is, existence, no matter how wretched, is preferable to non-existence. And part B is that we still exist, which presents the opportunity for us to walk a path to do better. And that all of those horrible things that I and the world have done are necessary as contrast for the good. They're inseparable. You can't dispense with the negativity. And ignoring it's not the right solution. Coming to terms with it is the right, in my experience, is the right solution. Not to combat it or what. And I'm not saying you never do nice things for people. Like, you know, I donate money time to time, or I have done a very minimal amount of charity work in the past. But part of me feels like the very first step in these solutions is stop contributing to the problem. So I focus a lot on not contributing to the problem, and like that reflects in my personal life. Like I've explained to my dad a lot recently that, like, hey, you know, I may not do a lot for you and, you know, my aunt and uncle and all that, like, but the main thing that I feel as if I contribute to their lives is not burdening them. that me being self-sufficient is one of the greatest gifts. And I don't know. We'll cut it off there. Thanks for joining me. I know the sign off. Remember, you're a sovereign individual. Do what thou wilt.